Hi, I'm Assemblymember Rudy Salas. Thank you for joining us for our virtual tour. This is my office, and this is kind of what each of the different legislative offices look like. As you can tell, I have the state capitol here. I got my portraits of John F. Kennedy here. Also, California Republic flag, which I really love this one. This is actually made from reclaimed wood. But so glad that you guys could join us for our virtual tour, and I'm excited to show you guys around. This is a reception area. This is where we greet all of our constituents, people that come and visit the state capitol. As you can see, this is typical of most legislative offices. You'll enter our office from the hallway, you'll talk to a receptionist, like the receptionist that we have here, and she'll ask you, how can we help you? And as you can see from a lot of these business cards, we have a lot of staff members on board that are ready to help you with any of your issues. A lot of times people will talk to us about an assembly bill, a Senate bill, a budget ask, anything dealing with the state of California, anything dealing with your own community or your own city or your own county. And so we're here to serve, and this is what a typical office looks like. All right, now we're gonna head over to the assembly chambers. You're gonna love the way it looks. It's not only historical, but it's just beautiful. So come join me. So this is typically how we get into the assembly chambers. You'll notice this is kind of like behind the scenes still. We're going through this hallway, and this hallway is only accessed by your state assembly members and your elected officials. If you notice, there's actually a doorway here, and it actually gets locked while we're in session. So imagine being at school and your teacher said, you can't leave until you get all of your work done. That's what happens here with us when we're voting on bills and we're here in the state capitol. So typically there's a sergeant at arms here to make sure that we stay in and get things done. And I'm just so happy to actually look at, every time we pass through here, you think of the history and you think about all of our elected officials and our leaders. And here you actually have a portrait of our minority leader, Marie Waldron, and a portrait of our speaker, Anthony Rendon, who we'll speak to just in a little bit. And here we are on the assembly chambers. This is one of the best parts about my job, is walking into these chambers and realizing every single day that we're here making policy for the state of California. You're affecting so many millions of lives and trying to make a difference, a positive difference in so many different lives. And so every time I walk into this chamber, it reminds me of that. It kind of takes your breath away a little bit when you think about all of the things that are being done here and the millions of lives that we're affecting. But this is what we like to say here in the California State Assembly, is when you're on the assembly side, you see this green carpet everywhere. But we have 80 assembly members. Each of us represent about 500,000 people each. So just imagine all of the phone calls and text messages and emails we get, every single one of us. But I know everyone that comes up here, we're all up here for the same reason. And that means we're trying to make a difference, a positive difference in the lives of our communities, trying to make sure that our community's voices are heard. And so that's what we do here on the State Assembly. If you look at the balcony up here, and in the balcony, this is where the public tour will take you. This is actually accessible to every Californian, to every resident that wants to come and see us do the people's business. This is your house, this is your chamber, and that's where the public gets to actually view everything that we're discussing and looking at. But I also like to talk about some of like the cool little things that they don't talk about in the official tour all the time. So one of those fun little stories about the state capitol is there's actually a gargoyle up on the ceiling. You'll notice one of those leaves, as it's facing us, actually has a face on it, and that face is actually sticking his tongue out. We call it a gargoyle here in the assembly. When the architects created this wonderful, magnificent building, they all wanted to leave their mark and they all wanted to leave their name. But rather than saying so-and-so was here in 1850 or in 1925, what they did is they did things in the architecture, and that was one of the things. They changed the top of that leaf to look like a gargoyle with a face sticking his tongue out. And what we're told is, at the time, nobody really noticed. It took them a little over a year before anybody noticed it was up there. But when they did, the speaker at the time was not too happy about it. But the rest of the assembly members thought it was something pretty neat. And so what they actually did is they ended up leaving it up there. And now I get to talk to you about it today. Now we're going to go visit our California State Speaker, Anthony Rendon. He's a dear friend of mine and he's expecting us. So let's go see what he has to say.
Come on in.
Mr. Speaker.
Hey there, how are you?
How are you, my friend? We're doing a virtual tour of the state capitol.
Oh, that's cool.
We wanted to make sure we stopped by your office. Wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about not only what the Speaker of the Assembly does, but just thank you for inviting us to our office.
Yeah.
And if you could just let them know What's the great work that we're doing here in the state of California?
We've done some amazing work. Rudy and I got here together in 2012, one of my best friends here. In our time here, we've done tremendous work on public safety, a lot of work on clean drinking water. I know that's important to folks in the Valley. Fighting for agriculture, fighting for farm workers, making sure that those jobs stay in California. So a lot of important efforts, and I'm really proud of those efforts.
Yeah, tell us about your office here.
My office, I think it's one of the prettier offices I've ever been in. Got a couple great views. This view is particularly pretty around Christmas time. Oh, yes. You look out there, you see the Christmas tree, and it goes. The lights go all the way down to almost to the bridge. And then out through this window, it looks out into the park. You can see, particularly in springtime, all the blossoms throughout the town. Beautiful vaulted ceiling. It's just one of the great offices here on the historic side of the Capitol.
All right, appreciate that. You know, Mr. Speaker is very modest, but he's actually in charge of not only the Assembly, but really leading policy in the state of California, which then has a ripple effect across the entire country. And I know he's actually been very instrumental in electing and putting women in positions of leadership. And so he's been very instrumental in that, and I think historically have been the first to do that in several instances. And so we appreciate what the Speaker's not only done for the state of California, but really for elevating his colleagues like myself in the Assembly. And so we really appreciate everything that you do. And is there a piece of art or something you want to talk to us about?
There's a couple of photographs from my district that are kind of cool. This historic flag. There's a painting outside that's really meaningful to me. You want to go take a look at it?
Yeah, let's check it out.
Cool.
Thank you.
Let's come. One of the cool things about being speakers, you get to pick the art that hangs out in front of your office and that leads into the Assembly chambers. This is important to me because it's a portrait of Jerry Brown during his first term as governor. It was painted by Don Bocarty. Don Bocarty was partners with Christopher Isherwood. Christopher Isherwood was born in England, moved to Berlin, had to flee Berlin when the Nazis came to power. Ended up in Santa Monica, which is where he met Don Bocarty. They were partners for about 30 years. Isherwood was part of this group of European intellectual exiles who fled Europe during the war. In my doctoral studies, I spent a lot of time studying all of these exiles. Good chunk of them ended up in Southern California, Santa Monica, Pacific Palisades, and this is as close a link as I could have to those folks. So Don Bocarty, the painter, is still alive. He still lives in Santa Monica. I believe he's in his 90s. Isherwood passed away, but this is a link for me to my sort of academic and intellectual past that seems like a different.
It makes it full circle for you.
It does make it full circle.
This was actually a controversial photo, and one of the things I loved about this photo is you could see the years here, January 6, 1975 to 1983. This is actually during Governor Jerry Brown's first term. And one of the things I really love about this photo is if you look at it and you look at this right corner, how it's not finished. And at the time, Jerry Brown is quoted as saying, "I don't want the portrait finished because I'm not done with politics." Lo and behold, Jerry Brown actually became governor a second time, and he's the only governor to do that, to serve full terms in the beginning of his career and also at the end of his career here in the state of California. And so I really love that about him, and that's what I really love about this photo.
Very cool. Yeah, and I wonder if he is finished yet.
So really appreciate the Speaker taking time to join us on this tour to talk about his perspective. As we enter the California State Rotunda, you'll notice how beautiful it is. And one of the things that people always notice is how high the ceiling is. And if you look at it and you look at the dome, it's actually 128 feet from the ground level. But you'll notice also a lot of the decorations, and you'll notice the California State Bear, for instance, around the inner ring. You know, a lot of people that come and visit me will say, like, this is one of the most beautiful domes that they've seen across the entire country, and I'd have to agree with them. So as we leave the rotunda, we walk towards the staircase. One of the things that I really love is these huge double doors that actually lead out to the balcony. Now, a lot of people don't realize this, but this is actually the front of the Capitol here, and so I like to show this during the tours. I can tell people, imagine thousands of people out there, and you're sitting here at the balcony addressing thousands of people. You know, this is what it used to be back in the day when the Capitol first opened. So as we move away from the rotunda and the balcony, you walk up a flight of stairs. This is one of my favorite stops with all of the kids as they come through and they tour, because I like to ask them to look at our California state seal and look at the symbolism here. As you could kind of see the miners, you see the bay, the mountains, you see the bundle, you see our California state bear. And I always ask them, who is this woman that's on our state seal? And a lot of times I get all kinds of different answers. But at the end of the day, I tell them, if you follow Greek mythology, this woman is actually Athena. If you follow Roman mythology, her name is Minerva. And so I ask people, why do we have Athena or Minerva on the California state seal? And a lot of people don't know the history. So in Greek mythology, Athena was actually born fully grown, fully clothed in armor out of the head of Zeus. Right? And the reason why we have her on our state seal is because the state of California, when it entered the Union, when it entered the United States of America, it came in as a state. It wasn't a territory. It was actually the 31st state into the Union. As we move away from the California state seal and you look, you will see all of these governors' portraits. Right down each of these stairways, you have 2 portraits of 2 California state governors. This portrait right here was actually very controversial at the time, and I'll let you guess as to why, but you compare that photo with some of the other governors' photos, you'll notice that they're very different. And at the time, a lot of the portraits were done just like this one, a portrait of the governor inside the state capitol. The reason why this portrait is very controversial at the time is because it's the first time that there was a portrait done of a governor outside the Capitol. If you notice, you'll actually see the Capitol and the Capitol Dome behind him and behind his shoulder. So at that time, this was very controversial. Now, as you can look and we pan out, you actually see a lot of governors that actually take portraits outside the Capitol. So we have Pete Wilson here, we have Gray Davis, you have Ronald Reagan, each of them actually with portraits done outside the Capitol. One of the other favorite portraits that people love to stop and take pictures of is actually this portrait right here. This is of Governor Schwarzenegger. Governor Schwarzenegger actually has ties to the Central Valley. He has a son that's from the city of Bakersfield, but at the time, people thought this portrait was very controversial, and I asked each of the different groups, why do you think that was? And a lot of them say, well, his portrait looks a little bit bigger than everybody else's. And I was like, well, that's not it. But actually, this is one of the only portraits that's been photoshopped, taken from a real photo. And so, this is the Terminator that a lot of the kids know him because of his movies, but this is his portrait right here. As we head down to the first floor, if you notice, you kind of see just the beauty of the rotunda, and you can see it once again, 128 feet, but looking at it from the first floor, you marvel at the magnificence of it. What a lot of people don't know is that William Todd, the nephew of Abraham Lincoln, is actually credited with the design of the state flag for the state of California. So as we continue on the first floor of the state capitol, you'll notice that all the hallways are actually, you have a display for each of the counties. So we have 58 counties in the state of California. If you notice here in the Central Valley, we have 2 here. We have Kings County, we have Kern County, and every display is unique to that very county. So if you look at Kings County, not only do you see the agriculture, but you see the fighter jet for the Naval Air Station that they have out there. If you look at Kern County, you see the rapids from the Sierra Nevadas, you see the oil derrick, you see the Buck Owens guitar, the renewable energy right up there, and also the home of Voyager. So as we walk towards the governor's office, you'll notice this big California bear right in front of the governor's office, and you can see our bear actually has a mask on. He's modeling the proper use of a mask out in public during the pandemic, and so I have my mask as well, right here. But this bear was actually placed here in front of the governor's office by Governor Schwarzenegger, and ever since Governor Schwarzenegger was our governor, this bear has stayed. Imagine all of the tours and everybody that we have walking through these halls. And we have thousands of school children every single day. They get so excited about this bear that they place their hands all over him. So imagine every single day, thousands and thousands of hands on this bear. So we always tell people, make sure you wash your hands, make sure you use hand sanitizer, because here in the Capitol, we affectionately know this bear as Bacteria Bear because of all of the hands. But make sure you come and check them out. If you notice, we're actually at the base of the rotunda right here. You see this circular room. But if you come out right over here, you can actually see how the drum is actually formed. And if you look right inside here, you can kind of see that. So this is a behind the scenes look that I wanted to give you guys. So I hope you learned a little bit about the California State Capitol, and I'm just so glad that you joined us for this quick virtual tour of the California State Assembly, of the State Capitol. And make sure you come visit us. We want to see you. We want to hear your thoughts. Please stop by my office. We'd love to see you. Make sure you visit my website, give me a call, send me an email, visit my social media. We'd love to have you, and just know that every representative is out here doing their hardest to represent you and to try to make our community a little bit better.